has been mentioned by members that we are somehow out of step. We are the ones that are in step on this issue. And it isn't in any way derogatory or in a spiteful, hateful way that we take this position. Far from that. We just believe that in this particular legislation, it is a very blunt instrument. It's very vague. And when it would come to interpretation of it, how have we offended? How have we expressed hatred against a female? How have we expressed it? Who will decide on that expression? It could be something reasonably moderate and mild, and yet someone may take offense at it. And I think in society today, a lot of people seem to take offense very easily of little issues. And before you know, you're dragged before the commissioner or you're dragged before a court of law. And there was never any malice intended. Sometimes it could be just a joke. It could be a passing comment that does not reflect any hatred or prejudice against a female or against someone who identifies as being trans. That is just the society that we live in. This is really a gagging order on that type of comments that so many of us often make, that they are passing comments, they're made in jokes. Of course, if there is hateful comments that result in violence, that then becomes a subject of the criminal judicial process. And there are ways and means how these can be addressed correctly without instituting a particular, I feel, named types of people. Where would we stop in law? You know, are we going to include old people next? Are we going to include children? Are we going to include people who write with their left hand as something that should be specifically protected? And the law has to embrace us all. We all have to live in the one place. The item of free speech, I believe, is a fair comment. And when it comes to free speech, we all have a legitimate right to say what is in our mind and what is in our hearts. You may not agree with it. You may think it dreadful, but that is the right in a free society. And to bring forward such strict legislation, it effectively is gagging that opportunity where people can converse and even change people's minds through argument and through reason. And when we give away the right of free speech, I'm not sure what other right. I believe people have a right to be against me totally and forcefully in my particular worldview or whatever. People have a right to particularly defend their position, as I have a right to defend that position. I can't see anything destructive in any way in that. And of course, we do not in any way countenance violence against any woman. There is much violence against men. Men are violent towards men also. So it isn't necessarily a one-way street. And I would hate the day to come when we all would have to be looking over our shoulders at every little comment we make or eyebrow raised that suddenly we're going to be condemned in some way that we have induced a form of hatred. You know, I was interested, just as I was thinking of this, from a Christian perspective, and I know Castlereagh is very highly qualified as a master of theology and divinity. And you know, whenever I thought Castlereagh on this subject, the Lord Jesus was asked on occasions, what is the greatest commandment? And you would know from different Gospels where it's recorded actually in 3 Gospels, he answered the question. The greatest commandment basically is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart. And then he went on to say that we're to love our neighbour as ourselves. And so we are to live by those summary of commandments. We are to love our neighbour as ourselves, who that neighbour might be. But when we think of the life of Jesus, he greatly opposed many people, and he opposed them verbally extremely strongly. and he induced great anger in people as he opposed them. Ultimately, they hated him so much that they crucified him. But the point that I'm trying to make, even in that supreme example of someone who loved everyone and cared for everyone greatly, yet in his argument against their sinfulness and wickedness, he spoke extremely forcefully to the extent that they absolutely hated him. So to bring in a legislation that would forbid someone to oppose someone forcefully and strongly, I believe is a gagging order and would completely destroy the whole matter of reason and debate, where people can be, whose minds can be changed. And to try and police someone's thoughts in this way, I think is absolutely would be impossible. And so for that reason, I will be voting against this motion. I believe there are better ways to protect ladies, and I look forward to the day when those protections are brought into place.